patterns speak to your possibility of having long-term viability in the future.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're talking to you guys, well, about Put a Ring on It. And we're dealing with the latest episode 11. It was crazy. A lot of things happened. But I want to talk specifically more about Otis and Charlie, and we'll do some little breakdowns of the other couples, maybe in another review. But specifically, I want to focus more on Charlie and Otis. I'm concerned for these two. And I'm concerned because I don't think we really know who Otis and Charlie really are. We've seen them for the past 11 episodes, and I'm really failing to kind of see where they've actually grown from their situation. I'm failing to kind of see where they've actually moved the needle forward in their relationship. You know, we come on this show, put a ring on it. As much as we may think what people think how crazy it is that people are going to date other people, which I do still, there's no doubt that if you apply yourself to at least the counsel of Dr. Nicole, you're going to learn something and you're going to grow from it. I think what we've seen from Otis and Charlie in the past 11 episodes has been petty king and petty queen. And unfortunately, I feel like they hold a representative up, an image up, and I don't think they break past that image and that representative. And because they don't, we don't really get to know who they are. And then because we don't get to know who they are, we don't really get to see if there's been growth or not. And so for me right now, watching Otis and Charlie, I'm like, there's a glaring issue that you two, he doesn't listen very well to you. He's not being very self-aware. He's not aware. And then you got Charlie being petty and intentionally trying to get him to change. And I've always said this, like, there's always one person who's willing to go below the belt and below the belt of the belt. So you have to be very aware that when you're playing this game, can you actually win this game of tit for tat? Because in tit for tat, let me tell you something now. There is somebody who does not give a deuce. There is somebody who does not care. You got to be careful out here when you're playing tit for tat. You know what I'm saying? So, but we're going to talk a little bit more about them on the rest of this review. Listen, if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor. Like it, share, subscribe. Click on that bell button for notification of uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. You got the minerals. Stay hydrated because the streets out there, they're hot, baby. All right, cool. Listen, we're going to jump into some things as well. First and foremost, before we do, if you're in this live, do me a massive favor. Leave a comment in the comment section. Leave a comment in the chat section. Let us know that you're here and you're available and you're ready to conversate, because you know we'll use your comments in this live. And for the rest of you as well, do me a massive favor. There's a link in the description box that will appear at the end of the show. I'll put it also in the chat as we go along. But I would love to let you guys vote for me on Influence Me TV. It's a competition I'm involved in. So I'd love for you guys to vote for me. If you haven't already done so already, I think you can vote again. So don't worry about it. It's a new round. And you can pay to vote if you feel led to. I would appreciate if you do. But cool. Let's jump into the actual show. Let's jump into this particular couple as well with Otis and Charlie. Okay. Let's skip this slightly back. I want to skip it slightly back. All right. And I want to get back because there's a conversation between Otis and Charlie that happens with, or at least Otis with Dr. Nicole. And there just seems to be this oblivious energy from Otis about where him and Charlie actually stand. So let's have a look. Let me just fast forward this a little bit. Okay.
That's not what she says. I listen to her and I watch you. There is not.
Now, he goes on saying that, you know, he thinks they're in a good place. He thinks they're in a good place. They're all right. And Dr. Cole says, no, they're not. They're not all right because Charlie's not feeling the way that you think she's feeling. Now, the fact that Dr. Nicole has to point that out to him that they're not in that place that he thinks he is tells me he's not really being self-aware, or he's not really asking the questions that's needed. I think it's more of a case of not being self-aware, because she's let you know how she feels, right? She's let you know that this particular behavior you're exhibiting, she's not really on it, right? So he's aware. He knows that she's not really cool. But turning the blind eye and being so oblivious to what you're kind of seeing is problematic. And I think also with that is added to that as well, I think the fact that these two, Otis and Charlie, tend to kind of plaster an image over the cracks of what's going on in their relationship. And I think what happens is they ignore or at least to the outer world, they present very, very well, but then don't really dive deep into the problems they have, well, at least with us anyway, on the screen. And when Dr. Cole's obviously saying you're not in that place that you think you are, he's actually going to counteract it and say it doesn't matter what she thinks, which lets me know that he's not interested necessarily in how she feels. Better yet, maybe these two are having a conversation, and this is just them playing it around. Yes, exactly. When in Rome, this might just be, this might just be acting and all fake. But I don't think it is. The tears that I'm seeing from Charlie, everything, it's not fake. I don't think it's fake anyway. But I think definitely, um, you know, I think definitely what you saw with Otis and Charlie is none of them want to be embarrassed, and none of them want to expose other or feel exposed by the other's behavior. And I think when what we saw from the very beginning of the season, we saw him saying, "Go take a bath." Da, da, da. She, when you see it, you'll see what I'm saying. She ends up defending that comment, and it's like, yo, like, B, we saw you crying, we saw you messed up, and you're gonna defend that comment. Then I realized that these two are in a it almost seems like they're in a toxic relationship where they refuse to open their eyes to anything better, right? And I'm like, yo, this is going to be a problem for you two because you're not really being honest. Therefore, there can't really be this growth that you actually need. You know what I mean? Like you need this growth, but you aren't willing to do what you need to do. Let's have a little bit look at more of what was said.
Not a true awareness of some of the toxicity in your exchange. And we've been talking about it at different points.
So Dr. Nicole here is also pointing out, so I have to put a light on for you guys. Dr. Nicole's also here pointing out the fact that there's toxicity in the dynamics of you guys have. And the fact is he's not aware of this. It's like he's aware, but he's not acknowledging it, sorry to say, right? Like you guys have actually got a big problem. Right? You've got actually a huge problem. Yeah, we'll address the pregnancy stuff, guys. Trust me. We'll address the pregnancy stuff because you guys are saying the exact same thing I also said as well about this pregnancy stuff. We're going to say that. So for me, I'm looking at going, you guys got big problems, but you're really refusing to showcase, like when you watch Alfonso and Shay, you can see growth. Whether they end up together or not makes no difference. But what you can see of Alfonso and Shay, like I actually watched the episode twice. I've watched it twice now, right? And I said, when I see Alfonso and Shay, I start smiling. I start getting happy, and I'll tell you why. Because I can see two people have done the work. Now, whether they end up together or not, is not the issue. The issue is these two have done the work, that they're growing. And so what I'm seeing from Otis and Charlie 11 weeks in is we ain't really seen no growth. We haven't seen that growth. The problems you came in with, you're still leaving with those same problems. So I'm confused by that. I'm like looking at it like, why hasn't there been that growth? And it's because you haven't been vulnerable. You haven't been vulnerable enough for us to see this growth. By the means of what you're saying, you've played the game until the 11th episode. You're still playing the game, both of you. You're still doing tit for tat. Up until 11th episode, Sorry, let me get let's get this there. Up until 11th episode, you guys are still playing games. Right? Yeah, there we go. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, how are we still playing these games? How are we still allowing ourselves not to have grown when we've had 11 weeks of an expert sitting with us, talking with us, conversating with us? That tells me more about you two, the fact that you're not being open to the process. You're not being open to learning and growing from your problems. You'd rather sit where you are and stay there. Problematic for me. Right? Because up until 11th episode, he's still not understanding. Like,
pieces that are missing are consistently missing. Once the engagement is done, once the wedding is done.
And here's the biggest thing as well, right? Dawson Cole just said a really brilliant point there. Consistently, there is missing pieces. Consistently, there is behavior that hasn't changed. Consistently over the weeks. So if I don't see your behavior changing, I cannot give a stamp of approval to you going forward in your relationship. I cannot get excited about your relationship going forward because I haven't seen a change. Why am I carrying a nail filer? And going forward in your relationship, I can't get excited for you. I have to question it. I have to ask real questions as to whether this is a really viable relationship. Because as far as I'm concerned, you haven't changed in your behaviors. Right?
It's the marriage.
Right.
And there are some things between the two of you that, as subtle as they may seem in certain dynamics, they're big.
Sorry. Yeah. So, you know what? Again, Dr. Cole's pointed out what I was even thinking of, which is they do la tete. You know what I mean when I say la tete. Tit for tat. They do la tete, right? And la tete is, when you were younger, you did la tete, bosom baz. You know what I mean? You do bosom baz, push and pull. When you were younger, when you were young and you were living those younger years of your life, you had time for la tete, bosom baz. If you show me, I'll show you. You had time for that when you were younger, right? You don't have time for that when you're more mature and time is against you. Letete is an indication of two people who are unwilling to allow the person to trump them in any cause or any time or any event. I mean, it's crazy to think that we're still doing letete. And it's like crazy to think because it's like this is not healthy behavior for a healthy relationship. At that point, you should be saying to yourself, saying to Dr. Nicole, you know what, Dr. Nicole, you know what, you're right. What can I be doing to kind of change his behavior? You see how Alfonso is? No. Can we use Alfonso and Shay as a perfect example? Shay has gone from plate gate. I need you to understand that, man. Yeah? From plate gate to now being in a place where she's like, I'm even apologizing to the people that are involved, even to a point where she says, listen, I can't control people's feelings. She even now say, I can't control what people do. Right? So now, right? This to now, I'm looking at a couple that have grown and are explaining their growth by what they say. And I'm looking at Charlie and Otis by what they say, and I don't hear the growth. This guy has literally heard Dr. Nicole say that she's not in that place. He ain't got nothing to say about it. Right? What we
I
gonna
don't feel
say?
that way at all,
I want to share that because I think if you don't get that from this process, then it all.
Now you just literally heard him dismiss. He said, I didn't get that. Nope. He totally dismissed what Dr. Nicole said. Now, what's more scarier is not the fact that he missed it, it's also the fact that Charlie also is willing to go forward without actually seeing the growth. And we're gonna come on to, I'll show you the end when he proposes to her. Without actually seeing the growth, he's proposed and you're accepting it. How? Again, let me go back to Shay as an example. Now, Shay's not the perfect person. Nobody's a perfect person. But, and I was harsh on Shay at the beginning of the season because I saw the behaviors. I said, this is trash. But when you see someone grow, you appreciate the growth to the point where Shay say, listen, if I'm going to get married, these things need to be in place. That's somebody who's learning. That's somebody who's picked it up and gone, look, do you know what? I deserve better. And I said this in one of my videos. I said, you can't expect me to treat you like $100 bill when you present yourself and you value yourself as a $5 bill. You can't ask me to do that. I'm not about to add on the extra 95. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. I'm going to pay what you said you are worth. Nobody goes into a shop to buy a drink for $1 and says, here's 100 because I think it's worth 100. No. You pay what you think it's worth. And this is the same thing with human beings. I'm going to teach you what I'm worth. So what is Charlie teaching Otis? You say you're worth $100 bill, but you're presenting a $5 bill and saying, treat me like a $100 bill? Oh, we gonna come to this pregnancy stuff. Trust me, we gonna come to this pregnancy stuff. Oh, we gonna come to it. Yeah. We gonna come to pregnancy stuff.
Also was not worth it.
Thankfully, it's not up to Dr. Nicole, and it's between me and Charlie on what it is we want for our lives.
It's not
You hear what he just said there? He says, thankfully, it's not up to Dr. Nicole. It's up to myself and Charlie what we think. And this right here is a really scary place to be in. I'm going to give different perspectives. One, because if you ever have been a manipulator, I've been a manipulator before, emotional manipulator. Yeah. So I know what manipulation looks like in all forms. Once he says, it doesn't matter what Dr. Nicole says, and thankfully, we'll do what we need to do. That for me screams isolation. And in a place of isolation, when you feel alone, you are also your weakest. That's why a lion seeks to have the animal at the back of the pack, has fallen behind, because you are isolated and you are alone, and there is no strength in your isolation. Meaning now anything can go, sufficing that you want to feel safe, or you do anything just to end maybe some nonsense that's going on in a relationship. You will accept anything going. You will accept any behavior going because you already realize you're now isolated. Now, of course, we already know about Charlie being pregnant, and she was pregnant for a duration of the actual process. So, of course, that changed her mind as well. But when you hear someone say, doesn't matter what you said, Dr. Nicole, even though what they're saying is some truth, you can best believe that it's going to be very difficult now for anybody else to say anything to these two that are going to be of any significance that doesn't compute with already what image they have placed for themselves. It's going to be tough. It's going to be real, real tough. I have to keep it $100. You know what I mean?
just an opinion. There is legitimacy in the concern based on what certain things you all do consistently in your patterns speak to your possibility of having long-term viability.
So you hear her, Dr. Cole, saying here, look, your long-term viability is affected. Don't worry about this now. Your long-term viability of a long-term relationship is affected. Look, he may have it good right now, and she may fall into line right now because she needs security and safety, and so she chooses to subdue and submit herself to a situation that's not so great because she wants the safety of those children. The children get old enough and she gets sick and tired enough, she's going to end up leaving. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a battle between her lesson to anybody as well, that when the red flags are going off, don't wait till you have a Kenneth and Shorty situation where it's now difficult to leave. Leave before it gets difficult to leave. Leave before it gets difficult to leave. You see, the deeper you go, the more difficult it becomes to leave. Leave before it gets difficult to leave. Get out. Right? Now, staying for the kids sounds like a really good reason. It isn't, because you end up being bitter and resentful. And actually, the kids pick up on that bitterness. Right? The kids will pick up on that madness. The kids will pick up on the issue of the fact that you two are not getting along. You cannot hide that. Kids are very intuitive. Very, very intuitive.
In the future.
Oh, I was playing. I haven't even played the right clip, but anyway, someone said it's really difficult as it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. It is already there. It's already there. It's already at that point, and this is why I'm saying that we need to look at Charlie and Otis and learn from it. My sisters, my brothers, we got to learn from these situations, because what, in a sense, has happened here, okay, is that now the child is involved. You have to deal with Otis forever. And that's now a united tie to that person forever. And it makes it that much more difficult, because the idea of family, of a united unit is so appealing. And now you've got to think about, is it even that bad? Now you're going to ask yourself the questions. Is it really that bad that I should leave? Maybe I should stay. Maybe I can make it work. You know? And then those things come flowing through your mind. And it's just so, man. And we'll come to this pregnancy thing in a second. Trust me, because there was something that was said in this episode. And I straight away said, yep, he going to make sure she stays in the knocked up phase. He going to make sure she stays.
This last group, I was angry. I need Otis to hear me so that we can move forward and get married.
So she needs Otis to hear her so that they can move forward and marry. And I'm like, when did you ever get to see this behavior? When did you ever get to see his behavior change enough in a period of time, all right, that you can agree to marriage? When did you get to see it? Because we didn't see it. We did not see it. Now, of course, he may not have done it on camera, but I'm like, but why wouldn't you have done it on camera? We didn't see it. That even in that moment with Dr. Nicole, even if he said, listen, Dr. Cole, respectfully, I disagree. Because you know what? When I look at some of the things that we've talked about and how we've disagreed, I've actually grown. I've actually begun to listen. I've actually begun to, sit down and be more quiet. I've started to X, Y, and Z. He didn't even say none of that stuff. So at what point, Charlie, did you see any of those behaviors that you said you needed to see before you move forward? Or did you just believe a promise of words that he said when you have a history of seeing his behaviors not lining up with what he says? Better yet, even what he says doesn't line up. So when did you see the change in behavior? When? Right? When? When did you see it? We didn't see it. Right? But this is what happens when we take an L. This is what happens when we don't realize our value. This is what happens when we're scared to be lonely, or to be alone, or be single, when we value that more than we value up these kids. Now, I'm going to tell you, listen, this kid situation is deeper, and we'll get there in a second. I don't want to get there too early. I don't want to jump the gun. You know what I mean? We're going to get there. Trust me. We're going to get there. Let me just look at this. Okay, cool. This point here. I want to focus on this point here. This point was cool. Oh, I went too far, guys. Sorry.
All right. It did.
Hold on. So I went too far. But basically what happens here is that Charlie says, we both know what we want going forward into a marriage. And I'm like, babe, that wasn't your issue when you came on the show. When you came on the show, your problem wasn't that you didn't know what you wanted. The problem was that you didn't know how to communicate. You didn't know how to behave. You didn't know how to treat each other and value each other. That was your problem. Your problem wasn't that you didn't know what you wanted. You knew what you wanted. You both knew you wanted to marry each other. That is not the difference. Huh? That is not the difference. All right.
How do you feel about us being equipped for the long-term future?
We know what we both want, so we have to continue to work on that, even with the failures.
Now, I realize that Charlie's really trying to look at the clouds and see sun when it's raining. It's delusional. I don't like saying that because it sounds so rude. But that's what it is. When you can see that it is raining, but you say it's sunny, it is delusion. And delusion happens when we place a value on something like marriage, not being lonely, the father figure, having a father figure, and not breaking up the family unit. When you place a value on something greater than yourself, when you place something as a greater value than actually your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, when you place something like that above your own health, that is a state of delusion. which we've all been there, by the way. We've all been there before. Like, well, no, not all, but most of us have been there before, where you've chosen to stay in a relationship that you know it is raining, but you say it's sunny. We've all been in that situation where you're looking at your relationship and going, I know it's raining, but it's sunny. And we call that delusion, because you're literally ignoring the reality of what you're seeing. And it's when you place a value on something else other than your mental, emotional, physical health and putting you as a priority. Right? That is a state of delusion. And we've all been that place. Right?
The issues, the problems, whatever. We continue to move forward knowing what we want, and we will get to that place. So I think we can.
Darling, it's almost as if you're begging at this moment. Look, when she says, oh, Charlie, man. Yeah. When she says at this point, look, you know what, we have problems, but we know what we want. So, but the problems have to be sorted. See, the problems have to be sorted. See, sometimes we think about short-term gain over long-term pain. And that's problematic, because it should be short-term pain for the long-term gain. But we will think about, I don't want to have the short-term pain. And in the long term, what all it does is give you long-term pain. You've got to be able to what? First and foremost, deal with the short-term pain so that you can gain long-term. Right? And so I want to say this too, right? Because I'm bombing Otis all the way through. Otis is a problem, right? She's wasting her own time. She is wasting her own time. I want to tell you this straight. Nobody else is in control of you except you. Now, of course, if there were abusive relationships, they're slightly different. We're talking about normal relationships where things like this happen, right? Nobody else is in control of your life except you. Whether you are 19, you are 21, you are 35, 40, you are a grown-ass adult. At that point, you have to be ready to take accountability. I can't waste your time if you don't allow me to. I can't. Now, that's a good point here. Someone said, okay, I don't get why Charlie wants to be with Otis so bad. She's beautiful, intelligent. The right man will cherish her value. Because she doesn't know her value. Because she doesn't know her value. Doesn't matter how buff you are, how beautiful you are, how good looking you are, how good your sex game is. Doesn't matter any of that. If intrinsically you don't know your value, it's almost like being, you know what? It's almost like I'm very good at my job. I'm amazing at my job. And then when someone asks me how much am I worth, I completely downplay it. Right? It's like you literally someone goes, you know what, you're amazing at what you do. And then I completely downplay it and go, yeah, do you know what? My work is worth a $5. No matter how intelligent I am, no matter how good I am at my work, no matter how beautiful my work even looks like, if I say it's worth a $5 and you say, oh, well, I mean, I thought it'd be worth more, you won't pay the $5. Now, some people will say, no, it's not worth that. So there are some genuine good, let's be honest, there are some genuine good people in this world. But let's be honest. If there was a TV that was worth, that you knew probably by the way you're looking at specs, it was worth £1,000, and someone said it's a $5, are you paying £1,000? You're paying $5. We're all going to pay the $5. We are going to, I'll bite your hand off that $5. I'll pay the $5 quick, but I'll pay $1,000. What? I'm going to take the deal. I'm not about to ask questions. And that truth is, you determine your value. You determine what value, and your value isn't about if you're really necessarily good looking or anything. Your value basically is what do you believe you deserve? What is your standard? That is your value. Your value is, what do I deserve? What is it that I is my standard? What's my level? And once you're able to attain what's my level, what I deserve, what kind of behaviors I'm willing to accept, that now becomes your value. And then when someone comes in and is below the value, you say, no, thank you. I know my value. I'm not about to give myself up for that. No. You're only paying a $5 when you know I'm worth $1,000. When you know I'm worth £1,000. No, sorry. Can't do it. Right? So it's about value. Understanding value. You must understand your value. And sometimes in these situations, with the Charlie and Otis situation, right? Because you don't know your value, right? He doesn't treat you according to the right value. And then you get a situation where we've seen right in front of us where he ignores all your feelings and your thoughts and doesn't really mind, does a bare minimum. That's no one that listen, even if it's manipulative, it's still you're still in the driving seat. You are still in the driving seat to challenge and change your trajectory. Okay, let's watch a bit more. I want to okay, let's have a look. Yeah, let's go to here. Let's go to their thing now.
Problems, and I think it was big of us to actually put it all out on the table. This process has had so many ups and downs.
What is this?
Oh.
So they're now about to have a conversation about getting wedded. He's about to propose. She's talking about obviously, they've had problems, etc., but they're going forward in the right direction, it seems, right? Although we have not seen any of those behaviors, and she hasn't really pointed out any of those behaviors. I guess maybe he's listening more. I don't know, but so far nothing really changed in that respect. But there's some interesting things that happen during this particular exchange between Charlie and Otis. And it really is something that I pointed out. And I was like, maybe it's just me feeling the way I'm feeling. So let's have a look at some of these things. We'll have a look. But let's listen to this.
Just this whole DM situation. We did talk through DM.
You talked to who?
Milan.
You got me up. We're done.
From a very...
Now, we already know about the Milan situation. It gets worse because they were contacting each other and they went and met up unbeknown to Charlie. Now, what do you do when you realize that your partner was lying to you about the whole DM situation with Milan? Remember, already emotionally he's not great. Already he's not being self-aware. Already he's not really doing the behaviors that you need of him to become a loving partner. And then you add the fact that one part was that he DM'd a girl, you got annoyed, and then now also in this situation, also, he also now has done more than he actually said he did. Right? So now we're in this situation where embarrassment's about to. Let me tell you something that's about to happen. What potentially could be happening here? Potentially, not definitely. Potentially, you're about to see a whirlwind of disrespect coming your way over the next few years. Between now and 18, this child, you are going to see a whole bunch of disrespect coming your way. Right? You're about to potentially see a whole bunch of disrespect. Potentially. And I say that because when I look at the situation and I see that he's already disrespecting you now, he's already lying to you now, he's barely emotional now. There's only going to get worse as the relationship goes on. It doesn't get better. Because he's had 11 episodes to show us growth and we haven't seen it. And that's not only just him, that's Charlie too. Charlie has not shown us any growth either. Before we shoot just Otis, Charlie hasn't shown us any growth either in the 11 weeks that we've been watching either. Have I seen the pettiness end? No. Petty right up into this episode where you're saying, I had to see him 3 times and he's seen my value. Did it? You know. you are going to see a repeat of behaviors. You're going to see a repeat of these behaviors, right? All right, cool.
Very long way. Me and Charlie, man, we having major communication issues. How did you keep so patient with Mom?
When there's fire, you never add
All right, cool. You know, and I also said as well with their situation is that, you know,
fuel to the fire.
I did think that with these two, the chances of them, you know, that he was marrying or seeing similar energy from Charlie as he saw in his mom. I think he's seen a similar energy from Charlie as he's seen his mom, and I think he's trying to overcorrect the situation. Now, someone said, obviously, I think they'll make it. There is a possibility they could. There is a possibility they could. I'm not going to lie to you. There is a possibility that they could. You know what I mean?
And listening to each other and communicating better.
I know that I hurt you. I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
Now, she's saying that they're communicating better, they're doing better, we're seeing better. Here's my thing. I would love to believe that. I would love to believe that. I would love to see that. But we never saw it on the show. We never saw it on the show. We never saw that on the show. We never saw him grow, even when he was talking to Dr. Nicole. How can you tell me there's been growth? I'm looking at like, babe, are you really seeing growth? Because when he spoke to Dr. Nicole, he couldn't even take what she was saying. So are we saying there was actually growth? Even if it's happening behind the scenes, I'm like, so what? Why didn't he show that to Dr. Nicole? Okay. He seems to come from a good home, good relationship with his father. What makes a man so emotionally cold like this? Okay, so this is my theory. Let me say it out loud before someone comes back to me and says I can't be reading their life and I don't know them. So this is my theory. Okay, I mean it's my own personal thingy based on what I've heard and seen. This is what it sounds like to me. Okay. The way he spoke to his father saying, Dad, how did you handle Mum? And his father said, you know what? Your mom was a bit of a fiery one. I had to learn how to listen because she was right. Whenever you hear a man say, I have to listen to my wife because she's right, I always think it's a very dangerous precedence. Even when I hear women say, I think it's a dangerous precedence, right? In the sense of what can happen is it can end up being a situation where the person starts fighting in any situation. Look, I'm not saying you have to, of course, there's always been wisdom and people should follow wisdom. I'm just saying sometimes when people say stuff like that, you can hear that there's something more to it behind it. So when he said, because your mom's always right and she's fiery, I straight away I could see that, okay, so the dad is a bit more softer than the mom. The dad doesn't necessarily do the conflict the same way the mom does, right? I think what I'm hearing is mom was a firecracker, could talk a lot, get her point across, okay, and the dad then chilled, right? The dad then chilled and said, you know what? Let me not fight. Let your mom win. I think he saw that. I think he saw those behaviors and resented it. I think he saw his mother treat his dad a particular way. And I'm not saying necessarily it was even bad, but when you're actually sometimes, when you're a kid and you're seeing certain behaviors, you can pick up on stuff and you make a judgment. So if you're seeing your mom kind of like talk to your dad in a particular way, you may see it in a particular way and be like, that can't be me. Oh, no. That can't be me. That can't be me that you're going to do that to. I will never let a woman do that to me. No. Nah, no woman's going to ever chat that crud to me. Right? No woman's going to ever try to talk to me like that. You dumb. So I think there was a little bit of a maybe him seeing that and then making that judgment for himself that when he gets older, that won't be his plight and his cause. And so therefore, it's not that he's not aware of emotional distress. It's not that he's not aware of emotions from Charlie. It's not that he's unaware of Charlie's feelings. It is that I don't care, because if I do, then I'm giving into you and I'm giving you the opportunity to rule me. That's why he likes her strength. He likes her strength because her strength is very similar to his mum's strength. That's what he saw with his mum. That's what he likes. But at the same time, it is also a thorn in his side, because that strength now is becoming a problem for me. And that's why in the very beginning, the very first episode, when he was saying that when I'm telling you something, you don't listen. Because what he's really saying is, I'm really trying to undo what my dad did. I'm not trying to be what my dad was. I'm not trying to be my dad. I'm going the opposite way. You have to follow me. You have to follow me. But he's gone too far, right? To the point where now he doesn't listen, doesn't feel anything, or at least doesn't listen to how he feel or how she may feel and consider it all the way, right? I think he's very much aware. I think he's aware. I used to say to myself, he's not self-aware. I don't think he's not self-aware. I actually think he's very self-aware. You know what I'm saying? I actually think he's very self-aware. When I say self-aware, sorry, I should say I think he's very aware of how Charlie feels, how she may, but I feel like for him, it's more of a case of, that's not how I'm going to run my household. I'm going to run it strong. Yeah? It's not me you're going to play with like that. So that's why when he can sit down there, eat his salmon, and she be crying at the table and he's eating his food, doesn't feel no way. Because it's almost like, let me tell you why I feel like this, right? I grew up in a household where, very strict, authoritarian African household. Discipline is needed. So I grew up to be a very disciplined person when it comes to misbehavior. So the way I discipline my siblings, bro, listen, we used to have a thing, if you're African, you know this one. Listen, they might call it child abuse now, but it is what it is. Fam, when you've been naughty, yeah, and we want to punish you, we'll take you to the toilet, we'll shut the toilet door, and you can cry forever more. Bro, let me tell you something. The first time you do this, you feel some type of way. But after the second time or third time, it doesn't phase you. I shut the door, I hold it and say, you ain't going to come out and just stop crying. You can sit there. Go on, continue. I'm going to hold that door. All right, cry. Because in 5 minutes time, you're going to stop crying. All right, cool, continue. Go on. 5 minutes time, you stop crying. Are you ready to come out? Cool, come out now. Right? Now, some of this is great discipline. Don't get twisted. Some of it's great discipline. Right? But what you realize is it starts to also make you very stern in the way that you deal with discipline. And what can happen is when someone's crying, you're like, stop that crying, it's manipulative, stop it. Rather than actually trying to be understanding of how people behave. Now, I'm not saying that every crying is is not manipulative. There's some manipulative cries out there. Some of y'all know y'all manipulators and you need to stop, okay? But that's between you and Jesus, all right? But what it makes you do is you become immune, or you tend to not look at emotions that people display as being anything but you just trying to manipulate me. So if you're trying to manipulate me, I'm not about to give you the chance. Cry if you want to cry. I don't care. Cry. I don't care. If you're gonna cry, cry. I don't care. If you're gonna moan, I don't care. Right? So if you say maybe child abuse, I don't personally believe it's child abuse. Personally, I'm saying that in this current climate, you can't even beat your children without it being child abuse. I don't believe it's child abuse. Personally, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't personally believe it. You know what I'm saying? But some of you might do. So I prefaced it by saying that. But I personally don't think it is. You understand? Yeah. I think some of you need some strong discipline. We can tell. Look at our society. Anyway, but so. You know what I mean? So for me, looking at the situation, I think that's why he's that immune to some of Charlie's ways of behaving and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, your little fake cry. You know what the fake cry was doing? The fake ass cry that he tried to get her back with. Oh man, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like I knew. You know. Some of the beatings were serious, though. I ain't gonna lie. Some of the beatings were a little bit abusive. Let's be honest. Some of the beatings were just out of anger. It wasn't because you weren't disciplined.
Well,
but anyway,
when it comes to showing my feelings, and at this moment, I can only hope that she sees how I really, really feel about her.
We still have a lot of learning and work to do. So where do we go?
He wants to let her know how he really feels about her. So that's why they're about to do this marriage proposal. Let me tell you something, man. Like, yo, like, it's tight, man. It's tight, but it's like we want to see obviously. I want to see couples grow. I want to see couples move the needle. I want to see couples like, you know, actually understanding where each other's coming from and show me that their process is working for them. Because look, as much as we may not agree with all the dating that goes on, the fact that no, yeah, I hear that still. The fact that obviously, you know, you guys are on this show and you're here means that you believe there's something that can be learned from this situation. So I mean, I want to see that growth, right? So when it gets to this point here, this part here,
To hear exactly what you need,
Yeah.
and I want to give you that. I want it to be that and more, you know? At this point, I just want to try to step it up, and so I'm gonna have
now can I be honest with you? I hear you. He wants to step it up. He wants to, you know, do more and give her more words of affirmation. Fantastic. I love it. I love to hear it. I want to see it. Fantastic. But I want to see it. Before you end up proposing, you should see it. You do not propose on potential of a hologram, of an image, of open air promises. I need to see. You said you want to be more words of affirmation. I'm working on it. Fantastic. We don't need to get married just yet then. Yeah, I don't need to shut the door on our relationship when I haven't seen it yet. I need to see these behaviors. I'm working on it. Keep working on it. Keep working on it. Keep working on it. Why are we jumping straight to the marriage situation? Keep working on it. But now we're going to jump into a marriage? No, let's work on it. Let me see some consistency, right? Let's work on it and see some consistency. And then I can say, oh, maybe, you know, yeah. You know what I mean?
to be more intentional about showing how much I love her and appreciate her and value her. It's a little bit bigger than me knowing it for myself if she doesn't see it for herself as well. Sometimes it's hard to swallow how amazing you are.
He started. He has started. He has started. This is what, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to play this next clip. I'm going to be honest with you. My initial thoughts of what I saw, right? I'm going to tell you the honest truth of what I felt like what I saw. Okay. He's about to say some stuff, right? And I didn't believe it. This felt like you trying to butter up and serve her up to the plate. You know what I mean? Before you unleashed the promise of this ring. Yeah. I felt like it was a butter up. I didn't necessarily believe the truth of what he was saying. I'm going to be honest with you. This is my own personal thoughts.
And that this is actually real and real life, because just how outstanding of a woman you are, it's very rare. Very, very rare. I hope you understand what I mean when I say that.
I mean, I believe there's some truth to it, but I just don't believe the intention behind it. You know what I mean? Like, I believe it is true what he's saying, but I don't believe the intention is of, I actually genuinely love you, appreciate you, da 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 da. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't believe the intention behind it, right? For me, it didn't sound real. It felt forced. It felt like you were trying to serve her up, butter her up, you know, fatten her up before you take her to the slaughter. That's how I genuinely reacted to that situation. Now, of course, he may have genuinely meant it, but from what I felt, the way it felt towards it, I said, I don't believe it. Cap, I don't really believe it. I don't really believe it. I don't. I'll be honest with you. I'm not really buying it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't feel authentic for me. Right? It didn't feel authentic for me. So, yeah, I'm not on it.
course you do. You know how ready you are, don't you?
I just wanted to make sure you knew.
I hate that there was ever any doubt.
I don't know. I'm really looking at it and I'm like, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, honestly, like, brother. I mean, I'm looking at Charlie like, she's like, oh, she's like, oh, I know, I just, I wanted you to know. And I'm like, I know that's what you wanted him to know, Charlie. I know that's why you were doing tit for tat, because your end goal was that for him to see you. Problem being is that he's willing to go lower than that. So you had two different goals. His was to establish dominance. Yours was to establish, I just want you to see me. You had two different goals when it came, too many of the I hear you, bro. I hear you. I hear you, bro. I hear you. Too many of those I don't even know what I was even saying now, but yeah. So with the situation with Charlie and Otis, I'm just looking and I'm like, bro, like, Charlie, you're saying you want him to know what he was feeling, what what you wanted him to know, that you're special for doing. That's why you're doing tit for tat. But the truth is, he's just scared of losing you because he's scared of having power over you. From what I can see, he's more scared of not necessarily losing you, but more of a case of losing power over you. And of course, losing what he has with you, of course, but losing more of a case of an established connection where there is some power at play at hand. Because the ego plays into this. The validation of the ego plays a big role into this. Big role. And I'm like, and again, I may be wrong. But for me, it does give me that feel of, I'm just seeing more of your fear of losing power. It reminds me of, when you break up with your partner, and men do this a lot. We do this a lot, right? And women do this too, but it's a bit more subtle when you guys do it. But men do this a lot as well, because I know I'm a man, so I know. You break up with your girl, yeah? And then you kind of see her potentially moving on, or she throws up a picture where she's looking bad. And you're like, I don't really want her again in a relationship, but I do want to see if I can get it again. So what you do is you cover up your actual intention, which is, I just want to see if I can get it again, with, I actually want you back. You don't want it back. You just want to have the ability to have availability. You just want to have the ability to have the availability with that person. Right? You just want to have the ability to see if you have the availability with that person. So it's less about you actually wanting them and more about the power struggle that happens between the two of you. You know what I mean? So it's tight. Right? Man, it's tight. It's tight. So let me go to my final part, because this is where we're gonna deal with it now, right? Okay. This is where I got concerned big time. This is where I got concerned big time. My water's finishing out. This is where I became concerned majorly. Is my other water around here? I've got a little bit left. I got concerned. That water's been there for time, brother. I may not drink that, fam. I got concerned because at this point, let's see this.
Just want to get started on kids right away. So.
Been working on it.
That's next.
Been trying so hard.
Let's just watch it again.
Let's go get those in some water, shall we?
Otis wants to get started on kids right away, so
Been working on it.
that's next.
Been trying so hard.
Smell the Kenko coffee. Because what's really going on? No. I just need you to deep it. I just need you to deep it what he's saying. We're gonna watch it one more time. We're gonna watch it one more time. All right. For those who don't really understand, I know a lot of us do, but for those who don't
Let's
understand,
go get those in some water, shall we?
Otis wants to get started on kids right away, so
pause. Did you hear what she said? She said Otis wants to start on kids right away. Did Charlie, did you say we? Or did you say he? Let's deep it. No, let's deep it. Did she say we or did she say Otis? This is why I say your words, your language oftentimes tell us a bigger story. So, of course, you might come out and say, no, I actually wanted to have kids as well. But why did your heart then decide to use the words, he's been trying? Let me say what I mean. Let me say it again. It may come out that Charlie may say it was our idea, but I will ask you, why did your heart decide to say Otis has been trying? Do you know why? Because subconsciously, you know exactly how this situation came about. You know who had a stronger feeling for wanting to have kids. It wasn't you, it was him. I'm not saying that you weren't included. I'm not saying that you didn't want it at all. What I'm saying is subconsciously, your heart is telling us exactly what really is happening in this moment because you're saying he has been trying. Are you forgetting that you're part of this? For him to try to have kids, you'll need to be involved. Right? For you to have kids, you need to be involved. So why is it you use the language, he's been trying? Because your heart will tell us exactly how you feel. It's been him pushing it more often. Otherwise, you would have said, I'm trying to get pregnant. Then that would have showed us you're trying. That would have been showing us you are the one pushing it. When we say we, then it's collective, as in, oh, we've both been trying. We've both been trying to get to that next stage. Like we've been trying, haven't we? Like and you kind of ask, we've been trying to get there. It's been crazy, but none of that happened. The word was very intentional. Very, very intentional. Very. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Sorry.
Been working on it.
that's next.
Been trying so hard.
Obviously, when they did that scene, they already knew that she was pregnant. So that's why I think that's why it's a little bit of a smile in their face, right? I think there's a little bit there was a smile on their face because they already knew, right? So now there's a situation with this pregnancy, and now we can talk a little bit about that kind of thing that you guys been talking about earlier on, which I also felt as well, because she said he's been working on it. Basically, he's been pushing it. That for me was once I breed you, there is always going to be access to you. I need you to understand this. Once I breed you, there's always access to you. Once I breed you, probably sounds really bad saying it, but once I get into a situation where you become pregnant with my child, that is now my access to you. So what you will see in these situations is men will purposely impregnate a man. Women do the same thing. Let's not get twisted. There are men and women who do the exact same thing. Women will do this to try and keep a man, right? Not necessarily to control him, but to try and keep him. And men will do this as a power control to try and keep you in their lives, impregnate you so that he now has access to you forever. So when he's saying it's going to be me, I've been trying. I'm looking at it a bit wayward, going, well, then it wasn't a not consensual, but I shouldn't say that. It wasn't that it was both your ideas of equal amount. It was more him pushing the idea, because once he gets this, you are gonna be stuck. You know, having one child won't trap her. I mean, it's not going to necessarily trap her all the way, but it will trap her. It will trap her, because the idea of the family unit is the trap. The trap is that he wants to see his kids. The trap is he will keep on trying to incept and try to put ideas in their head that, you know what, it's good for me to be with you in a situation. You know what I mean? Right? So there is a trap that comes just because you can work, just because you can earn money. Are you forgetting the emotional toll it takes to be a single mother? Are you forgetting the difficult toll it takes to even now have to always do CRB checks on every man you encounter because you can't trust certain men? The fact that you're now laden with this kid, but majority of the time, meaning your time is gone, and you then have to make sure that every single decision you make now is in lieu of your daughter, your son. Your whole life switches and changes. You're not free anymore. Because a majority of the time, when women end up having kids, they get laden with the daily process of these kids. They are the ones taking them to school. They're the ones changing the diapers. They're the ones having to buy food. They're the ones that are having to think about what school they're going to go to. There are so many decisions that are made by a single mother, right? That's the trap. The trap is that. It's not the fact you can earn money. It's not the fact that you can't be a millionaire. Listen, we've been seeing recently, I can't remember what her name was, and I've seen one or two of them, single mothers who've become millionaires, even before some of us men. You know what I mean? All right. So so in the sense of, the trap becomes about what your life now has to change. The trap becomes when now he wants access to the kid and uses the kid as a proxy to have access to you. The trap is this: if you decide you want to go, right? The trap is now, if you want to go, does he let you go for free? The trap is that when you now meet somebody else new, you're gonna want to date. He might try to say something and try to have his say in that whole situation. There are so many different traps, darling. I'm telling you, and he's already not a great partner. What would he be as a father figure who had previously had power over you? Now you're saying you don't want a relationship. What would he go to? We don't know. You don't know. Okay, the brother sat in front of you, ate a salmon. Listen, the salmon was wedge. It was bigger than this paper. The salmon that he was eating was bigger than this paper. The salmon he ate in front of you was bigger than this paper. He sat down while you're crying and ate the food in front of you with no qualms. My God. Do you think that when you have a kid? Hey! It's warfare. Right? It's warfare. So I'm telling you, it's gonna be tough out here. It's gonna be tough out here. I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be tough out here. So, she, now she's got to make a choice. I can become the single mother and take my time, or I can end up staying in a relationship and I might not get the benefits I require. telling you, man. You know what I mean? Listen, we all may be wrong, and maybe he is changed, and maybe he's done something different. Maybe he's going to be a better partner. I'm always willing to leave that open. But the last time I gave somebody a chance and I said they changed my mind, they came out and did madness. The last time I said this person was bottom barrel, and then when it came out, I changed my mind and they became even below the barrel. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying I'm open to it. I'm open to it. I'm just saying the last time I changed my mind, okay, last time I changed my mind, all right. Y'all know what happened. Okay? Y'all know what happened when it happened last time. You know? So whew. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot right now. Don't Anyway, so yeah. Oh man, I've not forgotten that. I've still got PTSD from that situation, bro. I've still got PTSD, fam. You understand? When I knew I should have stuck to my guns, I should have stood up with 10 toes down. I changed my mind after I had an interview. I said, let me change my mind. And then you do even, it is what it is, isn't it? You live and you learn. So yeah, so yeah, that's Charlie and Otis, and I want to just also maybe I'll do another live on this. I don't know, but we'll see. I really wanted to appraise Shay and Alfonso. I really want to praise Shay and Alfonso, right? Shay and Alfonso's situation, I mean, I'm going to say it again. Look, when you go from Plategate to a place where you acknowledge your wrongs and what you need to do better to improve yourself, that's amazing for me. I don't know if I can even get that, between let me see if I can get that clip. Right? The way Shay and Alfonso have moved across, that for me is huge. Huge. It doesn't even if they don't end up together, the job has been done. Even if they don't end up together, the job has been done. The job has been done. Because what you two have learned has been invaluable. What you've learned has been invaluable. Because what you two have come to a realization is, I am the problem. And if I'm the problem, I must sort me out before I look at somebody else. Right? We all knew we all knew Alfonso cheated, right? And so he came clean, right? He finally came clean, right? So he came clean with it all. So he came clean with it all. To even come clean about the cheating, from what we saw from the end of the show, right? To come clean with it, right, is important because now you start on a clean slate. But not only that, it means that you are starting to feel something that this is not right for me to start the journey and the process with you without being clean with you. You understand? So whether they go together or not, what we do know, um, is that you've learned some cool tips and tools in order to go forward, right? Someone said Fonzo's baby mother been speaking out. Yikes, she doesn't want him back, but she has been filling us in the history and what he's like. That's a hard habit to break, if at all. Okay, what did she say? I don't know. What did she say? Yeah, he had loose ties on his end. Yeah. Which is what, again, the show showed us that. Is that any different from what we saw on the show? Is that any different than what we saw on the show? No. That was exactly what we saw on the show. He has a problem cutting off ties. He has a problem shutting it down on the show. And that's what he was working on. And that's also what we saw a conclusion to, at least the start and the incline of him starting to deal with that situation. That's what I mean by growth. Right? That's what I mean by growth. So when you see that, then you're like, you can appreciate that. Whether you end up together or not, you can appreciate growth. And you looking at the situation and saying, hey, I need to change it. Right? I need to change it. And that's honestly true. Alfonso doesn't want to hurt people. It's true. Alfonso does not want to hurt people. Right? So Alfonso's got a problem that he needs to work on. That's why he needs therapy. Okay? That's why he needs some therapy. Okay? So he's going to have to work on that. So that's a part of the process as well. He needs to grow in that, you know. But I'll be honest with you, watching Alfonso and Shay and the way they talk, you can tell there's been change in their minds.
Absolutely. Thanks to you.
Oh, thanks to you. You did the work.
But you gave the instructions.
Okay. So
let me tell you something. I actually told Dr. Nicole this as well when we filmed about this. I said, whenever somebody can tell you, thanks to you, I see things differently, you know changes happen. However small, when the person can tell you and say, listen, let me be honest with you. You know what? Because of you, I see things differently. Change has happened. However small it may be, growth has taken place. Look at the difference between Shay and the difference between what our Otis came on my screen to say. Huge difference. There was a double down from Otis rather than actually coming in and be like, do you know what? I see the problems you're talking about. So, you know, truth of the matter is, there's been growth, and I can appreciate that. But I won't go too deep into it. So we'll do another live if we want to talk about Alfonso and Shay on a different live. I want to talk about them specifically. Someone said Alfonso got no self-control. He's putting himself on the back for not taking things further with one girl when cams are present. Let's see how he holds up a year with no cams. Low, impossible. Yeah. Listen, at the end of the day, you know what? That's still a growth moment for him. I'll be honest with you. It's still a growth moment for him, because that little needle move tells him now that he can do it. I know it sounds small, but if you've always been in a situation, if you've had a long period of time where you have access to women a lot of the time, some people think it's so, and I know men and women, of course, women get access to men all the time too, but you don't have the same consequences. Therefore, it's so different. So I'm not saying it's not harder for you. I'm saying to you, men don't get given a consequence for sleeping with many women. Therefore, there's no negative reinforcement. It's almost positive reinforcement. Therefore, it's very much more harder to stop the action to do it because you don't get no consequences. That's the trouble with patriarchy, unfortunately. So that makes it difficult for him now to do these things. Now, what he has to do now is, when even he does that little thing, you do have to give him a little bit of praise, because you have to positive reinforce positive behaviors. right? You have to reinforce positive behaviors. And he needs to too also deep it that I can do it. I can do it. I can stay with one woman. I can not cheat. I cannot be somewhere I shouldn't be. That's another journey. That takes time. That takes time. He gonna have to do that. You know what I'm saying? He gonna have to work on that. But I personally, obviously, if you've never done it before, I mean, it's not gonna be you're gonna experiment on me. You're not gonna experiment on me. I'm gonna be honest with you. You ain't gonna experiment on me. But I love Alfonso and Shay because of the growth they've both experienced. What he does need to be doing though now is not putting himself in compromising positions. Putting yourself in compromising positions. Nah. Your first and foremost aspect of self-control is don't put yourself in a compromising position. Don't do it. Don't put yourself in a compromising position. That's the first and foremost. Don't put yourself in a compromising position. Don't enter somewhere you shouldn't enter. Don't stay in a room that you shouldn't stay in too long. Business is business, pleasure is pleasure. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't mix the two. It just gets messy real quick, man. But that's another life for another day, man. Yeah. So let me tell you something, right? If you've got an issue with self-control, that you know what, when if you've got an issue with dealing with women when it comes to sex, the first and foremost thing you have to do, you have to be in a situation where you have to put certain blocks in place to stop that behavior. Do you know what I'm saying? So what you have to start doing is that you have to start being smart about your movements. Right? So if you know you're gonna have to work with an artist in a room, right? You make sure there's another man in the room. You make sure your assistant's in the room. You make sure somebody is there and present so that when that option comes up, you can't choose it. If you know that is your biggest weakness, you see, it's in your weakness that you have to start putting some proper procedures in place, so some structure, so that you don't fall into it. Don't give yourself the opportunity to move mad. Do you know what I'm saying? So in those situations, of course, you're going to work with female artists. You may even have to go to some dinners or whatever with that person. You know what you have to do? You're going to have to say to yourself, maybe dinner ain't a smart choice. Maybe dinner isn't a smart choice. Or maybe my assistant has to come along with us to the dinner. You know what I mean? Like, you have to start doing certain things that are going to stop you from having to move mad. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, it'd be happening. It'd be happening. It'd be happening. So someone actually said, but okay, what about Russell Wilson? I'm sure he has elite women throwing themselves at him and is able to control himself. I don't buy that excuse. But there's no excuse. We're just saying that a lot of people will end up choosing to have what they feel they can have. That's all. Because the consequences are different. If there were no consequences for an action, or there was less consequences for an action, depending on the nature of the person, not everybody would do that. Not everyone would try to do something that would be, let's say, considered bad, would have little consequences. We wouldn't all do that, right? But a lot of us would, because we have that kind of nature about us, right? Do you know what I'm saying? The Russell Wilsons are few in this world. The Russell Wilsons are few in this world. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying that the Russell Wilsons are few in this world. They are few. So, it'd be tough like that. So what I'm saying to you is, you don't put yourself in compromising positions. You have to learn how to make sure that, okay, let's not be one-to-one. Let's make sure the door's not shut. Let's make sure I'm not alone with you when we're doing music, because that can go a certain type of way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't need to be that way. We don't need to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, as a man, you just gotta be smart about it. Two more things. How I don't understand how men don't have control. Sex is not that deep. Whenever people say sex is not that deep, I'm like, maybe Baby, can be honest with you, baby. If you're a woman, you will not understand. Yeah, I'll just say it straight. If you're a woman, you will not understand if sex is deep or not. You know what I mean? You will not understand. So, you know, how we think about sex and the way that we're socially constructed is completely different, brave. Completely different, brave. You know what I'm saying? So, for men, it may not. For women, it might not be. I think for women, sex is deep as well. But I think the way that we are conditioned in society and the way that we think about sex, there's certain aspects to it that can be slightly different to us as well. So I could definitely understand that as well. To cheat is a choice. Yeah, I never said it's not. Yeah, that's the reason why we're saying put things in place. We know cheating is a choice, but when you have the privilege of being in the power, remember again, there are power dynamics within this society when it comes to men and women. There's a privilege of being a man. There are less consequences for being in this privileged position, doing certain actions. When we cheat, the consequences in terms of society's imposed consequences tend to be different than it does for women. So what people do is they take advantage of those differences. You know what I mean? So it's not saying that women are not struggling with temptation. They are. I'm not saying that. I didn't say it's any more or any less than men. What I said was we have differences in how society views us. Therefore, people are willing to take are willing to take different routes in terms of our behaviors. You know what I'm saying? Someone said no excuses, run. It's not about. It's not. There's no excuses here. You asked me to explain. That's the explanation. It's not an excuse. Yeah, you guys have to notice. I'm not giving an excuse for cheating. Explanation for behavior is different than an excuse because you're asking a question as to why these men might be finding it easier. That's the reason why. It's not an excuse. Nobody should be cheating on anybody. I wouldn't expect you to be cheating on anybody. I don't care who you are. But if you want to know why, then that's the why. Unfortunately, that's what happens with men and women. There are differences in there. So yeah, man. You know, it be like that. It be like that. No. No one should take it as an excuse. That how can it be an excuse if you ask me a question how to explain what it is about why men cheat? Why do men see it that way? Why do men see sex this way? If you ask me to explain the why, it's not an excuse at that point. It's a reason. It doesn't mean it's right. It's a reason. You know what I mean? So we're not saying that it's right. We're not saying that, hey, he should be excused. Never did you hear me say, well, when he does this, it's just a man being a man. You never heard me say that. I explained why they did what they did. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Why can't men control themselves physically? We can. We just don't have to. There you go. We can. We just don't have to. Because the consequences are different. So we can. We don't have to. So sorry to say it. We can. We don't have to. The consequences that happen for men, that they happen for women, are drastically different. Do you see what I'm saying? They're drastically different. You know what I mean? If you do it, you know the consequences that happen. If a man does it, you know the consequences that happen. Because society doesn't hold us exactly. We don't get held to account because we're in power in this society. That's why white people do what they do too. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? There is a power dynamic between men and women. When a woman cheats, look, you just have to go on a post and see if a woman cheats, how the men will end up slaughtering these women. The girl is this, the girl is that, the girl is this, the girl is that. That in itself is a consequence. And what happens is because the men are also in power, their words carry a certain weight. right? We live in a patriarchal society that promotes certain ideology, which is also carried within men and women, misogyny that carries within men and women in our mindset. Boys will be boys. If a man cheats, it's because he's not emotional. It just means he's cheating because he wants sex. All of these kind of things are part of the construct of society, which are born out of a patriarchal society, born out of entitlement and privilege, born out sometimes we can say misogyny. So the situation in terms of not being able to control ourselves, no, it is because the consequences that we have for doing this are completely different. If women had the same level of consequences that men have, maybe we'll have a different conversation. Maybe women will do the exact same thing we're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? If women could get away with what men could get with, do you think you would cheat the same way we would? I think we would, because already the stats say that you're only about 5% behind us. So it's about 55 to 45%. Women would equal us out as well if the consequences were the same. Because human beings are bad. Human beings at the root core, without Jesus, we are a problem, man. We are a problem, man. You know what I mean? There's a problem. It's reckless to say there are no consequences. I think you know what I mean by when I say there's no consequences. If we're talking about STD, STD is not specific to men. STD is not specific. STD does not affect men only. It affects men and women. Therefore, that is not the consequence I'm talking about. When we talk about cheating and talk about a consequence, what I'm talking about is how does society view that particular behavior? You see, in order to really enforce a behavior as being bad, morally wrong, and evil to a point people don't want to do it, everybody has to agree that this is a very bad behavior. Unfortunately, when it comes to cheating, how men tend to view it is, you know what, fam, like, it is what it is. It's like, forgive him. He's been... So the general construct of what men consider to be bad or good, since they are also the rule makers because they rule society, how they view cheating is oftentimes passed down and it trickles down into how women sometimes believe in cheating. Do you see what I'm saying? So in that sense, when I'm saying no consequences for men, I don't mean in a sense of there's no STD. That's obvious. STDs, pregnancy, we all know those things. But even pregnancy, the consequences are not the same. The consequences of pregnancy are not the same. You go out there and get someone pregnant, the man can walk away and the woman will end up with the kid all the way through. The consequences are not the same. They're not the same. So it's a harsh reality. It's a reality we live in. You know, that doesn't make it right. I'm just telling you, you asked the question as to why. And I said, that is the reason why. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to change the world and tell you this. No, listen, you asked the why. I give you the answer for the why. You know what I mean? This is why, you know. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You know, this happens. Let's see. Someone said, isn't this part of backlash towards modern women? As sexual morals changed and women instead started doing what men have always been doing, many people want to change the dynamic back. Yes, and this is what I'm talking about. So this when you get women trying to equalize with men, you get the same effect of when black people try to improve and be on the same level as white people. The same effect happens because what's happening is we're used to a certain level of power and dominance over you. We're used to a certain level of privilege over you. We're used to telling you how to behave. We're used to being able to control you. Now, if a woman decides she's going to be sexually liberal and do what we do, you slap a label over it. And the label is simply a tool of control to make sure that you stay in your place. Don't come out of it. Right? I mean, I don't want anyone to be doing too much in the sexual thing, but do your thing in it. I'm not about to question. I'm not about asking you how many partners you slept with. You know what I'm saying? But it becomes because the truth of the matter is, when a party is used to a certain level of control and telling the other party how to behave, when that party gets independent and says, we don't want to listen to what you say about how we should behave, they get offended, because that's where you're used to entitlement and being in a place of privilege. That's why I'm saying to you, consequences are different, because truthfully, men and women, and I said this last time, I said, we're not equal. In this society, who makes the rules? But yeah, it's a bit tight still. But anyway, listen, it's been an hour and a half, man. You know, it was a good convo. We're gonna chop it up again, guys. We're gonna chop it up again. You know, it be like that. It be like that. Yeah, that's a real thing, no. That's a real thing. Do you know what's so mad? Do you know what's so mad? I was thinking of a topic to do on Tuesday, and the topic in my head I said maybe we can talk about is should men be allowed to cheat? That was going to be my topic, and funny enough, it's actually come up in this conversation. It's a Tuesday night, guys. Tuesday night, bruv. Tuesday night, we're gonna talk, man. Tuesday night, can men cheat? Are men allowed to cheat? Should they be allowed to cheat in peace? We're going to talk about it. Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Let's have that conversation. Are men allowed to cheat in peace? Let's ask that question Tuesday night. So if you know you got something to say, bear in mind, listen, I'm telling everyone to come up. And the reason why I'm saying to come up is because you can't come and say some nonsense on here when you're behind the screen and nobody can see you. Talk sensibly. Come up. We're gonna have a real conversation, real talk. Do you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be interesting. Okay, it's gonna be interesting. Tuesday night, 8 p.m. I'll put up a poster tonight so we can do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're gonna have a conversation. We'll talk a lot about things. You know what I mean? Listen, we love and appreciate you guys. I got another live after this. We're gonna be talking about Kendra G. She put up a live the other day. It was really good. And so I want to talk about something that we saw on there. So tune in for that in about 10 minutes time. You'll see a post go up, so you should see it. We're going to talk some more as well. Appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. We'll see you again very, very soon. All right. Yeah. Someone said only if they can cheat back. I hear you.